Here we go with the entertainment. 1. In August, the strike at what Canadian airline resulted in a total of 3,200 flight cancellations? Air Canada. As you know, there are very few Canadian airlines, and Air Canada is usually the one that comes to mind. The truth is, there was legitimate reasons behind this strike. The problem is that in North America, major airlines tend to only pay flight attendants when the plane is moving. That means that when they're checking you in, when they're boarding, and even when they're waiting for the signal that the plane can go on, these flight attendants were not getting paid at all. This is in stark contrast to Europe, where flight attendants are paid by a monthly salary, which seems to make more sense. It caused a lot of delays for people, but I completely understand this issue as opposed to some other strikes, perhaps, that seemed a little bit more superficial in nature. So, number 2, what American singer-songwriter was the most searched celebrity of 2025 in Canada, both for her onstage and offstage activities? So, who was searched the most online? Taylor Swift. She got engaged, was nominated for 6 Grammys, and was named number 1 on the Billboard's Top Artists of the 21st Century. For context, the number 2 was Drake and number 3 was Rihanna. And the Billboard is a pretty objective measure to see how popular an artist was before it was exclusively taking into account radio play, but now they also count streaming as well, which is a huge player in the music industry. It doesn't surprise me that Taylor Swift was the most listened to artist in the past 25 years. That's a pretty objective measure. As to whether she's the most talented is another question. But for sure, she was searched the most in 2025. I imagine she'll rank pretty highly in next year as well. 3. This year marked Justin Trudeau's exit from one life and entry into another. What American singer did he start dating? Katy Perry. If you could remember, way back at the beginning of the year, Justin Trudeau stepped down from his role as prime minister because of internal conflict. This gave time for the Liberals to start a process to find their next leader, and then an election was called. So there were spotted Trudeau and Perry over the summer, and in fact, they were seen in Japan with a somewhat controversial picture of the two of them and the Prime Minister of Japan and his wife with Katy Perry wearing a pretty short skirt. I think that the two of them are made for each other. They love attention, and it just adds to the craziness of the year, so it totally makes sense to me. 4. Which important Canadian festival marked its 50th anniversary in September 2025? Remember, this is the entertainment category. The Toronto International Film Festival, also known as TIFF. So I don't know if you're aware of this, but Canada is actually a pretty big player in the world of film. The two biggest cities by far in terms of importance are Toronto and Vancouver. And TIFF is not just some small festival, it's actually considered one of the big 5 film festivals along with Cannes, Venice, Berlin, and Sundance. So I didn't know it had been 50 years, but we do have another question related to it coming up right now. 5. Speaking of TIFF, the opening film of the festival centered on what legendary Canadian comedian? John Candy. Yes, it's the legendary Canadian actor, comedic actor, who starred in so many movies that for me, growing up in the 90s, I just assumed that he'd been in everything, but I didn't realize that he had passed away in March 1994. I thought it was later in the 90s, but already he had quite the repertoire. Unfortunately, he was quite overweight and struggled with his weight throughout his life, and he passed away at the very young age of 43 years old. I wish he could have been there for a longer time, but at least there's a movie that was pretty highly rated that goes over his life.